It started with a single sentence that burned itself into my memory. One evening, as I asked my wife where she had been the night before, she looked me straight in the eyes, smirked, and said, "You're not my dad or my owner, so don't ask what I do." The words weren't just disrespectful, they were a declaration that my place in her life no longer held value. I wasn't her partner in her eyes anymore. I was just an obstacle to her freedom, a nuisance to her secret life. And, while she thought her defiance made her strong, all it really did was show me the truth. I was married to someone who had stopped caring about respect, loyalty, and love. From that night on, everything changed for me. I stopped seeing her as the woman I had once fallen in love with, and I started seeing her for what she had become: selfish, entitled, and reckless. She would come home late, her phone glued to her hand, always with an excuse. Sometimes she claimed she was with coworkers, other times with friends. But her lies were so lazy, so inconsistent, that even a child could see through them. She didn't even bother hiding her contempt for me. I started paying close attention. While she was showering, I went through her phone. I saw the late-night texts, the saved photos, the names of men I had never met before. She wasn't just dismissive, she was cheating without shame. My stomach turned, but instead of exploding with anger, I went quiet. Because silence is more powerful than shouting. I began preparing my escape and my revenge at the same time. Quietly, I moved my savings into a private account. I hired a lawyer and showed him the proof of her infidelity. I started separating my assets, documenting everything she had done, and making sure when the moment came she wouldn't see it coming. And while I planned, I acted normal. I smiled, I cooked, I kissed her on the cheek before work, and she thought I was still blind. She thought her sentence, "You're not my dad or my owner," had broken me, but all it did was make me sharper. Weeks later, the perfect moment came. She told me she was going out with the girls again, wearing a dress she hadn't worn in years, the kind of dress you don't wear for a casual night with friends. I let her go without saying a word. A few hours later, I followed. I tracked her phone and ended up at a rooftop bar, where I saw her laughing, clinking glasses, and leaning in far too close to a man who definitely wasn't one of her girlfriends. I took photos, I recorded videos, and then I left quietly, because I didn't need a confrontation in public. I wanted the real impact later. The next morning, she stumbled in smelling like perfume that wasn't hers and alcohol that wasn't cheap. She smiled and kissed me on the cheek, as if nothing had happened. I handed her a folder instead. Inside were the photos, the screenshots, and divorce papers. Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. "You're right. I'm not your dad, and I'm not your owner. But I am the man who will no longer tolerate being disrespected." She cried, she begged, she tried to twist her words, saying she didn't mean it, that she just wanted more freedom, that the affair was a mistake, but I had already detached. My silence was stronger than her excuses. I let the documents speak for me. In court, her arrogance cost her everything. My lawyer presented the evidence, and she walked away with nothing but her clothes and her shame. The man she thought would stand by her disappeared as soon as the pressure mounted. The freedom she wanted so badly came with loneliness, bills she couldn't pay, and the realization that no one else would treat her the way I once did. And me? I rebuilt. I focused on myself, on my peace, on rediscovering the happiness she had been draining from me for years. Her sentence that night was supposed to put me in my place, but it only reminded me of my worth. She was right about one thing. I wasn't her dad, and I wasn't her owner. But what she didn't understand was that I also wasn't her fool. Last time I saw her, months later, she was thinner, tired, and bitter. She tried to start a conversation, tried to smile as if nothing had happened, but all I gave her was silence. My revenge wasn't loud, it wasn't violent. It was in showing her that the man she dismissed so easily was the one who had given her everything she lost. She thought she was untouchable, that her independence gave her the right to disrespect and betray. But in the end, Her freedom turned into chains of regret. And for me, walking away with dignity was the sweetest revenge of all.